Oh, hello there. Welcome back to Papa's Painting Tips. This is part 2 of this painting. I came up with the name for the painting. Just happened to think of it a few minutes ago, and it's relatively simple. Nothing out of this world and ingenious thought, but bucking the bass. So today, obviously, we're starting on the bass section of this painting. And at the moment, I've got to set up my iPad, which I did forget. Someone asked me to... That's my... there we go. That's my iPod holder, or iPad. To mention what tools I'm using, what paints, and stuff at the beginning of my videos. So, to help you guys out, today I will try to keep in mind this. So, on this painting, I'm using my Iwata Custom Micron SB. Excellent brush, 0.18 needle nozzle combination. It's the version 2. Very comfortable in my hand. One of the best brushes I've owned. I've had many brushes over the years and still do have quite a few. My favorites are the Custom Micron SB and my HPB. Very excellent little detail brushes. That's this one over here. Okay, that one there. Very good brush, very good little detail brush. I might even bring this out today and maybe utilize it. Good for very fine hairline areas. But also, in this painting though, I'm using the Custom Micron SB. For my scratch tools, where are you? There we go. Got a whole handful of scratch tools, even though I might not use them today. But I'll go through. This is a hard tip eraser, Faber-Castell, with bristles on the end. I refrain from using these bristles anymore. I found when I was, especially on synthetic paper, I was wiping off some of the eraser dust, and I noticed later I had put scratches into the paint. Now this could be used as a tool to scratch into the paint. That would be a good idea. But this is the hard type eraser. It's like a pen eraser. I also have a Faber-Castell Faber-Castell soft eraser. It's like a pencil tip eraser. I use the Eurotool Germany scratch brush. It's a fiberglass nib inside this with a push button so you can retract and extend the fiberglass nib. Now when you're scratching with this, little pieces of fiberglass will break off and go onto your easel and onto your floor or your board. So make sure you vacuum them up and be careful because they do tend to irritate your fingers. To draw out my drawing, I use a Rembrandt polycolor pencil. For fur work and portraits, I generally use orange. I will use yellows at times. If it's a dark surface that I'm painting on, I have a white one. That's what I use to draw this out. And then as I go into the drawing, if you were watching the first half, I went around these antlers because there's not a lot of background color. So I erased the orange pencil lines out of it. I noticed a little place that I missed taking off some of the overspray. This eraser is good for taking off the overspray. I also have a, this is the fine nib in this Euro tool. this Euro tool has a broader steel brush in it. I do use this, but not as much. And then, of course, the fiberglass larger Euro tool brush. This one's a basic one that came with a scratch board set, but this also works the same as the Euro tool. So one other eraser that I do use is a Mono Zero Tombow eraser. It's a soft rubbery eraser. It's a little harder than your pencil tip eraser, and it's finer nib. You can also buy these with chisel points, but I think that's nonsense to buy those, because once you erase past that chisel point, what good is it? You got to re-chisel the tip, and I can chisel this tip easily enough with a blade. I also use in my drawings an X-Acto blade, or that's a number 11 blade. I also have used the rounded blades. I just don't have any right now. And then I've got this from a scratch board art set, and it's a scalpel blade, and it also comes with a pointy nib that you can interchange in this little handle, and it makes for good, very fine detail in the fur. So those are my basic tools that I use all the time, whether I'm doing portraits or animals portraits. For spraying off and cleaning my brushes, I've got Iwata Medea Sprayman bottle here. You put your tip of your airbrush in here and spray in. It's got a little filter. I ran out of filters, so I cut a little sponge and put the sponge in there. Works good. I have a bottle of cleaner that I use. This is my own homemade concoction that I've actually, well, it's not my homemade, but it is a homemade concoction that I found on the internet. And this is just distilled water in this one. This is what I use for thinning my colors, along with my reducer base. For paints on this painting, I'm using the E'tac EFX colors. These ones work really, really well on Claybord. They also work well on paper and illustration board. I've got a whole myriad of different paints, so it all depends on what surface I'm working on and which ones I choose to use. It does take a little getting used to. Let me go get my this easel is just a standard heavy-duty tabletop easel. I believe it was from Art Supply America, or U.S. Art Supply. I'm sorry, U.S. Art Supply. It's tabletop easel. Now, if you're going to use tabletop easel, make sure you are elevated enough on your chair so that your elbow ain't hitting this table. Because what I found was I was sitting too low and my elbow was on the table, and I was having to bend my wrist to get to certain areas on my paint board, and it was causing problems with tennis elbow. That became very annoying. It became very hard to paint, very uncomfortable. Still sore, but not as bad as it was. I even went fishing over the weekend, and it was not irritated even by fishing now. So it was caused by the tabletop easel. If using a tabletop easel bothers you, get a good floor easel that's very stable. It doesn't matter, and set up your setup like that. I use a daylight lamp, and that is the name of the company, Daylight. It's an easel lamp. It clamps to my easel up here, and it's plenty enough light. It's got a swivel light bulb. It sits right above my drawing, so I get a nice true color on my painting surface. The only thing I don't care for is the top of my board tends to be brighter than the bottom when I take a picture. And you can notice, I can notice it, but it's not that much when you're painting that it bothers you. Now, next thing I'm going to use is, and set up here, is I use a iPad for my reference photos to paint from. Pardon me. I put it in my folder, and this is a heavy duty holder. Did I say folder? Probably did. This is a heavy duty gooseneck holder that I found on eBay for holding iPhones and iPads. It's got two different heads that you can put on there. This is the iPhone holder, or phone, Android phone. It's got a little spring-loaded expansion. This unscrews. You pop the ball of the gooseneck into here, and then this threads over it and puts tension on that ball and holds it. The iPad holder is the same thing. It's just a lot bigger. And not sure who this was made by. Just look it up on Amazon. Look it up, iPad phone holder. I make sure every night I charge my iPad so that it's got plenty of power for the next session. I go into my settings on my iPad, display and brightness, and I turn off the auto lock so that I'm not constantly having to turn it on. Then I'll go into my photos and find my reference photo that I'm working from, which is right here. Now this is another artist painting, oops, but I'm just using the bass for a reference. Okay, that was definitely not a fun thing that just happened to me. That phone call was the exterminator. I've got a bee's nest out by the house. I went out to check where the bee's nest, if it was still active, because I sprayed it with wasp spray and hornet spray the other day, and a bee came out, went right for my face, and stung me right in the cheek. And I was quite a ways away. Bees. Not honeybees, so they can be gone. Be gone. Funny. Alright. Well, let's get started on this lovely painting. I just pray this will bless my friend when he receives it. I can't post it and put it up until he receives it. So once it's up, you know he's received it. Oh, now my dog wants to go out. You were just out, princess. No, hold on. I gotta put her out. Okay, here we go. Let's get started here. Just pulling out. I use little odds and ends like this towel to wipe off the tops of the bottles. For cleaning my airbrushes, I got my brushes and such. But what I think I'm going to do on this bass is there's a lot of yellow ochre and burnt umber undertones on this fish. So I think what I might do is start with that, do a medium tone yellow ochre burnt umber mix, almost the same as on the bass, and then go over with the greens and yellows to complete the bass. A lot of bass, they range in color when they're under the water, depends on how murky the water is. The clearer the water, the darker the greens in the bass. The muddier the water, they tend to be more on the silver side and less color in their skin coming through on their scales. The scales are pretty much clear. It's the skin, pigment on the skin that shows through. Let's see. So we're going to try a little burnt umber yellow ochre mix. Got my bottles here. And let's do a little transparent base in that. I got my distilled water. So I'm going to start by putting five drops of distilled water. I want it relatively thin because I'm going to be working small, and so I want to be able to easily paint on there, but I don't want it so thin that the paint just skates on the surface. So I'm going to 5, and then I'm going to use 5 water, 3 transparent. Well, actually that ended up being 4, an extra drop in. So maybe this eyedropper is bigger. That's another reason I don't use as many drops of water. I'm going to add 2 more drops of water to that. So it's now I'm going to do I think 3. Let's do 4 drops of burnt umber. I just don't want to go too dark too fast on these scales. As I'm putting them in, I can always go back in and darken them up. And then I'm going to put 2 of the golden ochre. I can say yellow ochre. It's golden ochre. It's a brownish yellow. Beautiful color. It comes in very handy, especially in flesh tones. Now, for mixing the paint in here, I use a plastic swizzle stick. I was going to get the wooden mixer sticks, but with these plastic swizzle sticks, coffee stirrers, I find I can rinse them and reuse them. That's why I keep a little tub of water here, or a glass of water, and after I mix my paint, I'll put the paint tip from mixing it, put it in the water, boom. That dilutes it, and then I just rinse it later and let them dry, and I reuse them. So it's not, I don't go through them so fast. Alright, got my color. It's a chocolatey brown looking color. And I also like to, where is my paper towel? I pull out my Q-tips for cleaning. Oh well. I was going to use a paper towel to spray on, just to check how it's going. I got a piece of illustration board. I could just spray on that. It's a cut chunk. Like I was going to use it to paint on, and then I never used it. I used to use this crescent board, illustration board. I've got quite a few of them still left, but this is discontinued. It's crescent. I forget what the number was, but this one's called an Airbrush board. Comes in 15 by 20 sheets. So let's get this little bass going. Now we start up by the head. And it's just, I'm just gonna start putting some of the shadings and markings in. I don't know if you guys ever feel like this, but a lot of times when I start a painting, I feel like, oh, how am I gonna pull this one off? Now see, I had an extra little area that I connected there and it's not. So I'm just gonna erase right back into that to detail that out. Now I'm not going to redraw the whole entire painting with this color or anything. I'm just going to hit the major brown areas. Okay, this is inside the mouth. I see something that, no, that's okay. That's the way that is there. Alright, and then inside the mouth, it's shadowed down in, obviously. And we got these other areas. I don't want to go too much on this because I know I got to erase out those orange lines. Now this is the bass teeth area. So I'm just slightly pumping that to kind of create that stipply look. Yes, bass have teeth. They are not teeth that they use to chew. What they are is their teeth. They grab a hold of a bait fish, and these little teeth help them grip onto that, or not even besides a bait fish, like a crayfish. It helps them hold onto that crayfish. Okay. I'm just putting in some of these little markings to get this bass color going. And inside the mouth there's a lot of soft tissue. It's like a fleshy tissue. There's a lot of pink in it, a lot of white. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start taking out some of these orange lines in here. Those were just my reference lines, so I knew where to put those shadows to help me out. I mean, you can do it freehand to where you don't use that. I just find it a little quicker and a little easier. You don't want to leave those orange lines in here because this is going to be such a light color in his mouth and light shadowing. You wouldn't see those drastic lines anyways. So take them out. Then you can retouch up any spot that you removed that should have been there. Okay. If just a tiny bit of those are left in there. It won't hurt because it'll just add to the texture in there. You just don't want a solid line looking in there. Then it'll look like a drawing. It won't look like a painting. You want it to look like a painting. Also this line here. Now the edge of this mouth on the outer side. I'm bracing my hand on my easel at the moment. Once I have to start, I'm a little bit high on this. Almost wondering if I can use my other chair rather than this stool and raise the chair up to its highest point. That way I'm a little lower for working on this. When I was further up, it was kind of hard. Yeah, this is more comfortable height for working down on this bass. And it's easier on my buttocks. In front of this eye, there's this darker mark here. The eye itself, there actually is some black color. They have a very interesting shape to their pupil. They got a little divot at the back of the pupil. Bass do not like direct sunlight because, as we all know, they don't have eyelids. Let me get a Q-tip here for cleaning my needle tip. Okay, I'm just going to put a light dusting above this eye. And I can start putting in some of these little nuances for the texture of the scales. Now see, I missed a line right here, so I gotta put this line in with my airbrush. It's always best to have a good reference picture that's nice and clear and detailed. This reference picture is actually another artist's painting, but he's got enough detail in it. It's just, I'm just using it for a reference so I know what to put in and then make it my own. Well, paint wasn't flowing just then, and boom. Got a little issue. Right here, right in the eye, right in the main focal point of this dang painting. Yeah, but you know what? It's okay, because Claybord, you can fix that kind of stuff. I hesitated too long in one area. Make sure I get that water off of the tip of the brush. This is why you want to periodically make sure you cleanse and clean that needle on your brush, so you don't have to keep pulling back and back and back. You gotta leave room for green in here. I can also step some of these back because I'm going to end up with the yellow. Now, I'm sure this person, when they painted this, I don't know if it was Cody Art did it. He does some fantastic oil paintings. Love his work. I don't think it was. I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure if this is copywritten, but I'm not reproducing this painting per se. I'm just using it for my own purposes. This painting is not going to be for sale. Okay, look what I'm doing. I'm throwing things at my painting. Let's take some of these lines out. And you can use that. You could even use this Tombow. I think this will take that line out without scratching up. Yeah, beautiful. A lot of this will end up blending right in to the painting. What am I looking at? Okay, that's just this. There we go. Now in his picture he's got a lure here, so I'm just kind of guesstimating what's going on behind his lure. I didn't want a lure in my painting, so I'm not going to put a lure. But I know enough about bass, because I'm a fisherman, to know where these lines are going. I've drawn enough largemouth. I could draw a largemouth on my own without even a reference picture. I just wouldn't have the detail. Let's start putting in some of this scale work here. Now the scales on a fish overlap this way. So, but on the face, they just look like little round marks. So, truthfully, they should be going this way. Let's do them correctly. There are thousands of scales. Why do fish have scales? Well, one, it protects their skin. Also, it keeps a slime layer on top of their flesh so that they're not as susceptible to disease. This is just a stronger shadow of scales coming down. I'm going to do it like that. Now, let's see, across from the eye, there's this light area in here. And then we got these scales starting to come down. And just like so. Then we can have highlighted areas in here where the scales aren't so rigid looking. You got light reflecting down in through the water, rippling on it. Just be conscious of now this is the gill plate, so it's shadowed behind the gill plate. Yes, this is going to take quite a bit of time. It's very hard to concentrate here. My cheek is hurting. Thank you, Jesus, that you taught me a lesson about getting too close. To the insect population. They are an aggressive little bugger. And here there's just a little, it's not as pronounced because of the light reflection. Okay, these are larger. Don't know if it'd be quicker just to this is going to have a tint of green on it, on these scales. And then I'm also going to, some of them, put in highlights. Now above this part of the plate, gill plate, I don't know how many of you are avid fishermen, but the gills are how the bass get oxygen into their bodies. I have fished all my life, but this is basic biology, anatomy of fish. But I was at one point thinking about becoming a conservation officer. Or not an officer, I'm sorry. A conservation ranger. Park ranger. And work with the Department of Environmental Conservation. Environmental forestry would have been my major. You might ask, what is that compared to a forest ranger? Environmental forestry is more, I don't know if you've ever done any hiking and climbing or such, and there's people that go out and maintain the park, and they go up and, like, say, climbing a mountain. There's the dudes that go out and make sure all the bridges are in shape, all the pathways are clear, that there's a clear marking on pathways, such as like climbing Mount Algonquin or Mount Goulden. There's markers that they put up for hikers to follow as they're going up the mountain so they don't get lost. And if they have a map, the park map with them, they can follow these markers and know where they're going so they don't get stranded up on the mountain. And that's what I kind of wanted to do. You manage the forest area, you make sure that the deer population's healthy, you make sure people are safe when they go on hikes and stuff like that. Not so much a forest ranger as in you're going out to catch poachers, you know, that is part of that job. But you are not law enforcement in the parks. I misspoke. I didn't want to be a forest ranger. I wanted to be environmental conservation and wildlife, parks and wildlife. However, the only reason I didn't pursue that career is, one, my passion for art was even stronger than that, and two, the job availability for conservation was very low. Okay, down here is very loose. Paying attention to where these shadowy little lines are. Which side is my little shadows. This is very fleshy looking under here. There's no scales under here. So it's just light little shadowing, and then we'll darken it in later. This is the bottom side of his mouth. And our little bath is coming to a nice start. A little depth in there. This part behind here is definitely darker. And the same in here. A lot of depth right there in that shadowy area. And then this lip. Okay. I take a lot of breaks while I'm spraying so that I pay attention at what I'm doing. Let's see, under here, there's just some ripply marks in the skin. This under here folds under this little bony piece. And it's not just straight, it's got some texture to it. I had a comment the other day, and I'm not arguing about anything about this, but someone saw this painting that I'm working on here, and I said how it was a gift for a friend. And I got the comment of, oh, he likes to kill deer and put holes in fish. And it's like, when people get like that, they're ignorant to what we do as sportsmen, fishermen, when we bass fish. Even when I go fishing, I am a big fan of catch and release. Yeah, you put a hole in their face, basically, but it heals. There's no nerve endings. They just have the sensation that they're being dragged through the water, and they're fighting to get away. I mean, I release them back in. They do live. They will continue to live and get stronger and bigger and reproduce. And the Lord said in the Bible that when He made Adam and Eve, He said, I give you dominion over everything that creepeth upon the earth and reproduces. Okay? Dominion means you're in control of it. You take care of it. Okay? And it's there for your purpose, your surviving, your use, your pleasure. Animals, I don't know. Whether they have souls or not, I have no clue. Bible doesn't say that Jesus died for the salvation of the fish or of the deer. So, do I support a irregardless, unconscious slaughtering of animals? Absolutely not. To slaughter an animal just for the purpose of fun, I don't agree with. To catch and release an animal or hunt for food to provide for a family, absolutely support it. I think if you don't do this with a population of deer and have hunting and clearing, what you end up with, sorry, naysayers, you won't agree with me, you end up with a very sickly herd of deer that are undernourished. They have young that are not nourished and taken care of, with birth defects and health problems. You can disagree with me all you like. It's fine. You got every right to disagree in this. Now, should people go out in between season poaching and killing just to get antlers to sell on the market or deer skin to sell for hide? No, I don't agree with that. Should elephants be slaughtered just for ivory of their tusks? No, they should not. Should monkeys, apes, gorillas be killed to get their hands to make ashtrays and the rest of the ape be discarded in a heap to rot in the forest? No. But what you're not thinking is, as an animal's carcass does lay there, other things in the field do feed on it and get nourishment from that. So there's a plus and minus to it, but no, as an ex-hunter and an avid fisherman, we're to take care of the species that are on this earth, as well as our own selves, and make sure we preserve it so that the population survives. Should mankind take over every inch of land available on the earth and destroy the habitation for these species? No, we should not. We should not habitate everything. But there's going to come a day, according to God's word, that we basically destroy the earth. If you go in the Bible and you read back in the days of Noah, the population was so great, so large, that it's the same as what it is now today. That many people were on the earth, and only 8 survived the flood because only 8 were found to want to follow God. Only 8. The rest of the earth said, we don't want God. You know what? God's the creator of the world, you, me. And he is due reverence. He did not create us to kill us. He did not create us to destroy us. He created to join in with him in heaven. But the only thing he said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, and thy mind. If you don't want to love God, there's no other place for you to be other than separated from God, and that's what hell is. The hell was not created for mankind originally. Hell was created for the devil and his angels, and those are the angels that fell from grace and followed Satan. And if you... Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was interrupted in my talk about Noah's times. But the world is right back to like it was in the times of Noah's. And that was foretold in the Bible. It would become just as in the days of Noah, Jesus said. Then you say, how cruel can a God be to tell you you must worship like this, you must honor me, you must praise me. Now, and think, in the world, all these wars and disease and problems, and what most people are not realizing is what they're talking about is the consequence of sin, not a cruel and unjust God that is punishing a world and saying you must follow me. He doesn't say that. He says you can do as you please. You can be like you want. But there's a consequence to that decision. And you have to be willing to pay that price. If you live without God, in sin, you'll reap what you sow. He's not doing it to you. It's the consequence of sin. Pestilence, me getting stung in the face, that bee being so aggressive today, is a consequence of pestilence. I was not doing anything to disturb that bee's nest. I was merely standing, talking on my phone with the pest control woman, and that bee was so aggressive, it stung me in the face. Now why? I didn't do anything to threaten its nest right then. I didn't provoke that bee into that type of response. But it was aggressive because of pestilence. Because the consequence of sin in the world. You say, oh, that's hogwash. Is it? God told you what would happen in this world if you reject His love. Not that He's punishing you. It's just the consequence of sin. Now, the other thing I like to think about is God loves us so much, He created an eternal home for us in heaven so that we could spend eternity with Him. Now, because God is righteous, perfect, pure, and holy, the only way man can be with God is He too is perfect, righteous, and holy. Guess what? We know from the beginning of Adam and Eve, mankind chose to follow his own way and set his fate. He chose to disobey God in the garden. God had given him a beautiful garden that was perfect, that was not corrupt with sin, disease. This world was to live in perfection right from the beginning of the creation of it. But because man's heart listened to Satan's lies about God's promise and wanting to be gods themselves, because Satan said, surely you won't die. Well, right there, Satan just called God a liar. Surely you won't die. Did God say physical death? Or did God say, surely you will die, meaning you will be separated from my love? And because man chose to follow that liar, through that, mankind now is born in sin, born in death, a separation from God, death. And the only thing that can save an eternal soul is getting right with God, fixing that choice that Adam made. Because when God came down to the garden that day and said, Adam, where are you? God had already known what had happened. He already knew what Adam had done. He already knew that Eve listened to the serpent and convinced her husband to do the same. But God gave man that chance to come out and tell him, just like we do with our children. Who broke that? I don't know. It was broke like that before I got in here. You're not telling the truth. Tell me the truth. Oh, I am. Oh, okay. No one taught that child how to lie. That child figured it out on his own right from the start. A soul born in sin, separated from God, it automatically knows how to be disobedient to God and to its parents. So God said, you know what? He said from the beginning of time, I know man will do this, so I will create a way that those who want to be with me and love me and trust in me, not to serve, just to serve me, but to trust in me, I will provide a way. And that's where he said to Abraham, when he asked him to sacrifice Isaac just to test him. Isaac was obedient in this. he said, he told Abraham, stop. Don't lay a hand on that child that I gave you. Don't lay a hand on Isaac. He said, I will provide a sacrifice. I will provide myself a sacrifice. Wait a second. Myself a sacrifice. Well, who is Jesus Christ? Jesus Christ is God incarnate. God in man's flesh. God in human form. God is spirit. The man Christ Jesus is the flesh created, is the fleshly image of God. You say, how do I know that? Well, look at the Gospel of John. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Wait, the Word was God. Jesus said, I am the Word. I am the truth. I am the light. So if the Word is God, and Jesus told you He's the Word, then Jesus is God. Jesus is that Abrahamic sacrifice represented by that ram caught in the thickets. And Jesus is the perfect sacrificial lamb that was sacrificed on the cross for the redemption of mankind. He who became sin, who knew no sin, the Bible says. So, in Noah's times, it became that no man wanted to follow God. No man. Each wanted to be his own God. And that's why God decided all flesh has become so corrupt on the earth that I repent for making it. In other words, I've changed my mind for making mankind. I will destroy it. But then God thought, wait, I made the plan for salvation, and I'm not going to destroy all mankind, even though they don't want me to be their God. So, what's he do? He goes through all humans on the earth looking for righteousness, for those who love him. Out of billions of people, how many did God find that loved him? Out of billions, 8. Now, did God just destroy everyone right off the bat? No. God told Noah, while you're building the ark that I've given you direction on how to build, make it big, make it to this measurements, that not only that it could fit 2 of all animals upon this earth, but it could also fit as many that would follow God and that still loved him. A purpose of salvation already, right there. Out of all the billions of people, only 8 were found that wanted to follow God. Now you're going to say, what right does God have to make that decision? No. God created all things. It all belongs to God. God gave us dominion over all things so that we could take care of it. To be His keepers on this earth. And wait for the day we spend eternity with Him. But we said, no, God. We don't want to do that. We want our own way. We want to be our own gods. Like I said, think about it. If your child doesn't want to live in your house and stay with you, you're not going to force them. You're going to let him do what he wants. But they're not going to enjoy in your house because they're going to be gone. Now, how do they enter back into your home? They repent of their ways. They say, I've changed my mind. I want to be at home. I want to be in this family. I want to be part of this household still. I don't want to be on my own. And what do you say as a parent? Okay, if you're going to live in my house, you're going to abide by my rules. You're going to live according to the rules of this house. Well, we can't go into heaven unless we're abiding in the rules of God and following Him. So how do we do that? How do we follow Christ? How do we enter into a heavenly place? We're already full of sin in our hearts. We're already rebellious. We're already saying, no, God, I'm going to do it my own way. Alright, so we're in effect saying, I want to go to hell because I don't want to be in heaven with you. Okay, say we repent. We say, I have a change of heart. I want to be in heaven with Jesus. I believe in God. I trust in His promises. I trust in what He's said to us. I want to be there. God said, I will be that sacrifice. Believe in me. You believe in God, believe also in me, Jesus told Nicodemus. You must be born again. How do I get born again? Nicodemus said in the Gospels. He said, flesh gives birth to flesh, the Spirit gives birth to spirit. Nicodemus is like, dude, I can't get back in my mother's womb. What are you talking about? He said, you're thinking fleshly. Your mother gave birth to you. My Spirit gives you a second birth, born again. Receive Christ as the Lord of your life. And you will be born a new person, born again. Simple, isn't it? Just simple, born again. You've given a new heart, a new mind, a new soul internally. No longer are you separated from God. No longer are you rebelling. Your whole heart only wants to bring joy to others, serve God by loving Him. Ba-ba-boom. You're in heaven. You're now living as God originally planned your life to become. No longer in sin and darkness, but born again, born of the Spirit. It's a simple plan of salvation, isn't it? That is beautiful to me. How beautiful the feet are shod to bring the Gospels. I don't know, my feet aren't that beautiful sometimes. But I will share the Gospel. And I really, 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 really thank you people for joining with me on these adventures and learning how to airbrush and taking the time to hear the Word of God as I teach how to paint. Now all I've been doing in here, back to the actual painting itself, is I've been going along and just putting in the shadowy spots with this base layer of yellow, golden ochre, and brown. Burnt umber, actually, to be more precise. Now, I'm not drawing the whole picture. But I'm just putting in these markings. They're dark spots that follow along this lateral line on this fish. And because it's underwater and it's turning, it's hard for them to be lined up. But they follow a pattern. Down the side of this fish. This is the lateral line. What's the lateral line for on a fish? It's for, it feels the vibrations in the water. There's nerve endings in there. It's the bass's hearing for underwater. They can sense vibrations in the water through their lateral lines, this line. And it actually comes up here on the side. This is the lateral line right here coming around. And this is the opposite side of the fish. And it follows that lateral line. That's how they pick up vibration in the water. Now I gotta get the reference of these scales in here. These are some of the dark spots. And I'll be re-emphasizing those dark spots. I didn't draw them all in this tail. I'm paying attention to the size of each scale. And truthfully, these scales go this way. Okay. I went out fishing yesterday and there was a largemouth bass dead on the rocks. And that largemouth bass was big. He was at least an 8-pounder, if not more. And obviously that bass had lived its whole life in those waters to be that big. Now, would I have rather have caught that bass? Oh yeah, that would have been a fight to remember and an awesome memory to remember catching that bass. Would I have kept it? No. I would have put him back. Let him live on. but unfortunately he was dead. Now whether someone else caught him or he just died of old age, I most likely think he died of old age. Up here in the west where I live, or northeast, I'm sorry. I don't even know where I live. Oh crap. Here in the northeast, fish don't get that big because their growing season is shorter. They eat in the wintertime, but very little, because they're in a I forget the term, not hyperbolic, but their whole body system slows down and they don't eat as much. Their heart rate goes down. Not quite hibernation, but similar to hibernation, I would think. So that bass had been around a long time. To live and get that big. If he was in Florida, yeah, maybe a couple years old, 3-4 years old, maybe more. Up here, I'd say that bass probably had been alive for about 8 to 10 years. This is the anal fin. These are 2 stabilizing fins. Just about done putting in the base for this beautiful little bass. Now, what I'm wondering... Okay. I think my paint needs to be... I don't want to water it down yet to get it to flow more. Just trying to paint this in. Now, I do have my hand resting on the table, but I'm not torquing my wrist downward. Each of these, what I'm drawing in, is actually a bone that forms the fin. And the bone gives this fin structure so that the bass can propel itself. And in between is a fleshy piece of skin, very thin. Under here, there's more shadow. A lot of this I can improvise on because I do know how this looks. Then I can come back in and put highlights in spots. This one, I'm just going to shade a little. This one kind of breaks off. I think we got two, what is going on with my paint? Yeah, I've got no paint coming out at the beginning of my stroke. So, let's add a pinch of water. I don't want to go too thin. I'm right at the end. I back flushed a little bit just to get what's in the brush to mix back in with what's in here. Most likely what's going on in there is just I've got some buildup of paint on the needle that now has worked its way back into the head. There, yeah, I could even hear the difference in the spray. Now I got, immediately, I've got paint coming. I just gotta watch because obviously now this is thinner. So I'm gonna build it up slow so I don't skate my paint on the board. And this is fanned out more. Now let's see, under here, and this little bottom section. So many fins and spots and scales. Yeah, this is too thin now. That's the risk you take to try to get the flow, that it becomes so thin that now to do any close tight detail, what you can do is you can turn down your air pressure and paint so that you don't get that skating. Now if you're just going to do little line details, it's okay. Now, over this section, this is more shadowed off in between these fins in this area because that's rounding down the movement under this fin. So it's going to shadow a little here and then back underneath this side out here. And then again in here we got some shadowy areas. Now this is going to be a little shadowy, but more shadowy under here, the curve of that fin, because it's doing this. It's not just flat. So we got to take into mind how that fin is bending underneath and figure out the shadows. Yeah, right now my paint's too thin. But I just wanted to be able to get those lines in. So I can't flood the surface at the moment. Alright, now this last fin here that we're going to do a little work on before we start working on some this has all been that one color, the burnt umber and golden ochre color. Shadows under here. I've gotten a lot of good responses from people about they like the fact that I take the time to teach it in real time. I hope you guys do that are watching this. Obviously you are watching it, so otherwise you wouldn't be hearing what I'm saying. Do you hear what I'm telling you? The witch was watching the mirror with a stolen set of pipes. And okay, let's see, in here. These aren't the gills, this is the gill plate. This is what protects the gills. The gills are the red membrane underneath that collect the oxygen. So earlier I kind of misspoke, I said the gills. This is the gill plates in here. And alright, this is, the skin comes under here. Building that up real slow so I don't oversaturate this. And then doop-a-doop-a-doop. That's the underside. Because I got this all wrong. This is a shadow. This is the skin. This is the other gill plate underneath from the opposite side. So this comes up to here and then comes back down. It's hard to see in that camera lucid exactly. When you draw your lines you can see it, but you know, unless you're drawing exact in every single little nuance. And just giving a little more definition between some of these scales, darkening them up. And let's see. Now I'm going to take my eraser highlight. I think I'm gonna sharpen up this hard nibbed one. Do this with the hard nib. The round one bends a little too much at times, and I want a little more precise spot that I'm erasing back into for these scales are so tiny. This pencil's so short. Hey, man. Why is that short? Just trying to put a point using my thumb at the back of the blade. Now here's another trick you can do to get a sharper point. Take a little, this is just some 80 grit sand pad. It's a sanding pad by Norton's Soft Touch. As you can see, I use it for my pastels, but you can take this, sand down that eraser, nice little point. It's a sanding pad, a sand sponge. It's for wet sanding on automotive. That's where I got it, from an automotive supply store. I'm just going to take and go into some of these and clean up some of the tops of those scales, so they're a little sharper up in here. Okay. And then this spot here is a nice little highlight coming in here and up there. Then again on this little edge coming down the top of that gill plate. We're going to redefine some of these later, once we get other colors working in here. We'll bring these back out even further, because we're going to have a lot of color here, and this turns white in there. And let's see, this little bone there, and then this is going to be highlight over here, but I've got to put in the color first to make that stand out. Okay. I hope you're enjoying this painting I'm doing as much as I'm enjoying it. It's kind of fun to be doing animal and a mammal and a fish together. Sportsman picture, really. Kind of a fun thing. All right. Let's get some color in this, and then we can come back in and start working details. So, we're going to clean out this color now. Oh boy, that elbow's hurting. That's not what I want to happen. See, I'm sitting lower down, and that elbow's starting to hurt. Just at a loss. I just lost my train of thought there, what I was looking to do. Stupid bee, you're distracting me. All I feel is that pain in my cheek. It's not terrible. I'd like to see if my face is swollen up. That sucker just flew out of the hole. I'm just standing there talking on my phone, and bam, I get whacked in the face. All of a sudden I felt it land on me and immediately sting me. It's like, hey, I wasn't in your face, why'd you get in my face? Stupid bee. And he's not honeybee. He's not feeding no one. Yes, bees pollinate. Yeah, we need them. But hornets are nasty. Honeybees usually leave you alone. Unless you're bothering their nest terribly. And that bee had a vendetta against me. A vendetta against my soul. Alright, let's put some green. I love the green in bass. Okay, let's see. What green? There's a lot of yellow too. Maybe I'll put yellow first and then the green. Yeah, that would be easier to control it that direction. So I will pull out the green and I want some yellow. I'm going to put a base of yellow on this bugger. I want it to be quite transparent. I don't have to thin it way down with water. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 drops of transparent base. Because I really want this to be transparent. Give a good shake to my yellow because it ain't been used in quite some time. What you can do too is if you want a real pastel looking yellow, you can spray the yellow through the brush until it was empty, alright? Not on the painting, but in your cup, and then throw transparent base in your cup and spray that, and it'll make it, it mixes internally. It makes a real pastel looking paint. So you're pretty much just painting with the base that has been tinted. So I put 5 drops of transparent base and I just put 2 drops of yellow in it. And I'm thinking that'll probably be enough paint to dust over this. This is just going to be a dusting of paint. And I don't remember, I didn't run water through that, so you guys see if my brown comes out. I don't need a lot of this, but alright, my yellow's coming through and it's nice and transparent. You can barely see it. So I'm going to dust this whole surface on the upper part of the bass with this yellow. Even into the eyes, because there's some brownish orange in the eyes. Now I am paying attention to the yellow. I'm not just painting everything with this yellow. I'm just putting the yellow where it needs to be for this painting. And this is another method of working when you do portraits. You can do. Be careful of the overspray on here. You don't want to yellow up the background. And here's going to be orange too. So we can put some yellow in there. This is how you build up a flesh tone, base layers, and then you use your transparents over the top of it to build your color. Alright, we need some yellow in here. This is going to be pink in here mostly, so we're not going to put it there. We can use some yellow under here. along the back it's going to be the green with some yellow. And then under here. And there's a lot of yellow coming right here. Up in here. And then on the back right here. That fin has got more blue in it, so I'm not going to put a lot there. And then up on this belly underneath is a little bit of golden. Okay. It should be good. This is stronger yellows up in here. So I'm going to hit that a little harder with the yellow there. Same right here. And on the cheek of the bass, how cheeky, there's a little more yellow reflective. And then the lip, there's some on this lip. So we're going to hit the lip with this yellow. Same in there, I said. Top of this lower lip has some yellow reflecting through it. So we're just going to put some yellow in there. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's good. I don't want to go too far. Now I'm going to switch over to green. So I think we'll do, for the green, I can leave that yellow in. What I think we're going to do is we're going to mist it, then I'm going to come in and work the highlighted areas and then mist back over to create our depth. So for the green we're going to add a little water. I'm just going to leave that yellow right in there, so there's no yellow left in the cup, it's just the residual paint. So I'm going to go 3 drops of water, 3 drops of transparent base. I think that'll be plenty because I don't need a lot of paint to do this. And let's do, since we got yellow in there, we're gonna do 3 drops of the green. Let's see where that takes us. Okay, you know what? Do I have? I was wondering if I had an aqua green. I thought I did. Oh, shit, knocking everything over. I mean, I could always mix it, but could have swore I had some kind of an aqua green, but I don't. It's a bluish green because there's a lot of blues reflected in this. So I can go back in and do a little definition with blue, and then brown. Brown will give us a black once I put the blue in here. A little squirt see through. Okay, make sure on my board I've got the green. Nope, I don't, not yet. No green yet. There we go, now we got the green coming through. You know, I want to say, well, this is just a tint over it. This is too bright of a green. Too yellowish. Let's I'm just deciding whether I want to tone this down with a touch of brown into the green. I think I do. Not red ochre. No. What about brown ochre? Yeah, I think I might throw a little brown ochre into this. I don't want burnt umber. Let's just put 2 brown ochre. Just to dirty up that green a little. It's too bright with that yellow. Yeah, that's a little... It's hard to tell in the cup, obviously. I want to knock down these air bubbles. I don't want air bubbles coming into my paint chamber. You can hear that little separation. Alright, that's a little dirtier. A little bit. So we're just gonna mind you, it's still gonna be quite yellowy at the moment. Let's see, make sure I hit the right spots. And I'm not saturating this with color. I'm just tinting this detail that I got underneath right now. This is giving color and form to this largemouth bass. And what I got to do is I got to come through and figure out how I'm going to get this color accurate. Put some green down in there. The bottom of the fish is silvery white, so we don't want that green in there. Just a little bit of green in here. That's going to have a reflection of blue under here, but mostly pink. Alright. Okay, let's see. Now this is what I want to do. I think I want to go into this probably getting almost full on my... Now I want to come back in and start hitting these little white highlights. I could even hit them. Yeah, I don't think so. Sometimes this becomes almost guesswork on what you want to do. in these areas. This is just the base colors for this fish. I'm not, this is nowhere close to the finished color for this bass. And what we're doing right now is just picking out highlights on some of these scales where light is dancing through the water and reflecting off the top edges of these scales. We could even, where are you? There we go. We could even take, and once we want, get sharper on some of these. Really pick them open. Alright. Not all of them, and not extreme either. This is, I'm scratching a line on this. Create that real hard highlight. And it's going to end up being knocked back, but to open it up right now, we'll create that edge that we're needing in that spot there. I wouldn't do this on the rest of it. And what we can do, like on this one here, okay, underneath it, we're going to work a little, blend it out a little more, so it's not just scratched in line. Same with these. Blend it out a little better by running that eraser over it. Okay. Same with this one right here, right now. And then down around. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing in here. I think. Not scratching a hard line. I don't want that. I'm just trying to clean up that little edge, but keep it still defined. Scraping off a little bit of paint here as we go. And I'm going to blend it down with that eraser. Under here, I've got this spot. Okay. And the same with this cheek area here. Let's blend these up. Just working on these little tiny reflections of light. And the same under here. I don't want it as hard edged, but I do want it to pop out a little more. This was a little mistake I just noticed. That hard, and then come in and soften that up by blending it out with the other eraser. Okay. And then this, there. And then down on his back. I don't want to go right on the edge where this line is yet. Okay, it's really bringing that bass to life here. Now on these gill plates, or the gill covers, this is more the gill cover, not the gill plates, but gill covers. There's light reflecting right here on these. Right, and that's that. And this comes down and kind of blends into that one. And then out. All right, bringing in a lot of definition into here. Also, on each one of these, the upper ridge is a little more. I could probably do it this, just push to draw that line down. Just opening up that a little more on top. And then this one here, this is going to be a little more. And what I can do is bring out a few of those. To these scales. Let's do the same up in here, just the top edge, and then we'll blend it out of these scales. Alright, that'll give us real crisp detail on these, not all of them, but a few. And maybe this one. In a sense, we're making a scratch board, but with color rather than just black. And then here we can do the same. We're going to soften these back out because we don't want them this bright, but I want to change that green to a blue green a little more. In here, yeah, we got a lot of these. A lot of these scales. This is why I wasn't worried about making that exact in there at the moment. I just wanted the gist of where the scales were. Let the imagination do it. Okay. And do. Now that bass is just coming, boom, to life. Boom! Look at him. Awesome. Scratching in these scales. Kind of fun because you don't have to draw them all in. We just misted over that, and right now we're just taking away to create this beautiful fish. People say fish. How is a fish beautiful? To me, it's a beautiful fish. It's one of God's creatures. He gave life to the sea. Now that was within them. Yeah, this is working. This is working. Blending those ones, softening them out, not so scratchy. Same with these, do a little bit, not a lot, because I don't want to obliterate the darker shadows in between the scales. And this little cheeky I think in this, we should redefine this edge. Because truthfully to me, I know on his picture he doesn't have, the original artist does not have this defined. But I want that drastic contrast right there on the edge of that. And then bleed it down in. Okay. Beautiful. That's what I want. Then up in here, and this top ridge, now that I've got some color on it, I can do a super high highlight up here to bring out the top edge of this fishy against sorry about the grunting. I shouldn't do that. Okay, on the eye, there's two highlights I want to pick up. Come around the top of the eye. And then there's one bleeding out right, or popping through right here to make that eye look wet. Okay, and that's that. We'll blend that one out. And above this eye, this little reflection here. Got. Don't forget, we're going back in over this with some more color. A more muted green, blue color. And then we'll redefine some of these highlights after, because they're not all gonna be white highlights. Let's get some of these little there we go, that's better. Now over here, I don't want to scratch these ones, but I do want to lighten them a touch. And same over here. A few little spots that are popping just a little bit from on top. Now, down in here. Alright, on each of these fins, I got reflective highlights. This will give it a wet look. I don't anymore. I try to refrain from using opaque white in my paintings, and the main reason is with doing the opaque whites, they have the color shift come in, and you can utilize color shift to your advantage depending on what your undertones are. A lot of color shift, well, in white there's blue in it, so if you've got a color shift that you want it to go to the blue, you can use, it's okay to use it. And take advantage of it, I think. Alright, let's see, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a dirty brown green in this now. I got my green still in here, so I'm gonna add some marine blue to this green. So let's see, I've only got a little tiny bit in the cup, so we're gonna go 1, 2, maybe 3 drops of marine blue into that existing color, and then we're going to go to darken this. Whoa. Gotta watch out because I don't want to get this on my pants. Today I'm not wearing 1, 2. I'm not wearing junk pants. Bet you thought I was gonna say I'm not wearing pants. No. That would give my neighbors a start if I was walking around here in my skivvies or no pants at all. I'm gonna add 3 drops of water. I'm gonna go too transparent base. Let's give this a little mixy, because the blue and brown, that's going to make it black. This is going to be our shadowy color. I think it might want it. Well, that went real black. Let's see where we're at. No, that's good. That gives me a real dark green. And that's what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted. Thank you, Jesus, for directing my hands. Okay. We're gonna start putting in a little bit of this dark detail. Actually, I could probably go more brown. Alright, you know what? Before we do that, let's use this for some of our color, where I want to adjust the greens a little more. Just these little spots. I'm going to bump up my air pressure because I got this a little bit thicker. I don't use any set air pressure per se. I'm generally down in by the, and there's use this little spot of color here. And we got some in here. Oh, you know what? I just had a little fleck of paint spit out of there. I heard it go. And now it's spraying a lot better. So obviously I had a little bit of piece of dried up paint in that. Yeah, I'm going to be going back over some of this with a brown. Okay, we got a little bit of green in here. This is just bringing more of that green into it. More of this in here under the shadowy side of these scales. This is a more blue-green. I'm going to end up having to add a lot more brown, I think, to this. Right now all I'm doing is little spots. Now we're getting more of that blue into there coming through. It wasn't coming through on my brush yet. I didn't get it all the way through it yet. Right, some of these are spots in the scales. Let's get this into here. Got to shadow out this way. I mean, my colors don't have to be exact to what my reference is on this per se. It doesn't need to be, unless I'm doing an actual now under here the back sides of these are highlighted, so I got to pay attention to that. I mean, if I want to redo this into my own work of art, I can make it a little more abstract if I want. Or I can go exact detail and make it a photo of a bass. I don't want to just do a copy. I want it to be my own original. I'm just defining that lateral line. And I see something else I want to do. Do what you want to do. adding some more definition in this. Using the blue and the brown, well, the bluish green and the brown, to bring in more definition on this. And then again on the top side. To get those looking good. I'm liking it. It's coming together. Gotta clean off the tip. I get quiet at this point too because of, not because I'm running out of things to say, but because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. Paying attention to my details. Okay. And again up here. And a little bit of paint just spit off the tip, so that means it's drying on the tip of my needle. So I'm just gonna take that off, which means we gotta take more care on tip dry. I knew this little bass would go relatively quickly. Well, quick for me, for my painting. Okay, in here, this is not here. There's color on the edge of this. A lot of times it's not pure white. this part of the, yeah, that's the bill of that, so. In here, ooh, that was a little darker than I wanted. And we've got a little bit of shadowing up on the top sides of these scales. You didn't think there would be so much work, huh? So, under here, I'm going to add more blue to this too in a little bit, but we can go with this greenish blue. And then again under here. And let's see, we can do this under here. I'm actually adding more detail than this original painting has. The original is more blurred out and faded. I'm increasing the detail in them just to make it a little more photorealistic to my likings. Let's take out that orange line now, because this is going to be the highlight at the top of this bass. Right? And over here, put on the back sides with some of these highlights a little bit, just because we don't have the background color in fully down of the deer, just so that it stands out. Okay, get the ridge of that fishy. this upper lip. That can be a little shadier. It doesn't have to be a solid line. And we're going to do the lower lip a little more. Let's add a little bit of green on the edge down here. And again up here on this part of the lip coming up. Okay. Now, this is going to be shadowed off the back side. Of these scales. Let's see, where do I want to do with this? Still recording. Just making sure I still got you with me. Like if I didn't hear that beep beep. Define this a little more. Same with the shadow. I want to bring this played out more. Like there's a more of a pronounced shadow coming out of it. Got a little more definition in there. Oh, come on, really? That's what's got to do. I'm only going to touch that because I don't want to pick it right off and have a pure white spot in there. Kind of let it dry a little bit and then use it. Use it to my advantage. Now this I can actually take where I just added that shadow, create these into scales. Okay? There, it's not just a solid shadow, you don't want that because it is all scales. And under here, let's do the same thing because this is a bluish green. And along this little edge here. I'm just going to mist down this back area here. I'm going to leave some of those yellowy spots coming through. And I'm going to come in and erase on them to create the tops of those scales. Oh, while we're in there, before I forget, let's add a little to the edge of this fin. And same down here, and then we'll work in some detail out to the outer edge of this one. I think it's coming along nicely. And then we're going to hit in here, this little turn of the fin. And we'll work in a little detail into that. Alright. Top ridge on this kind of stands out. And let's just give a little bit of highlight coming out of there. In each one of these before I forget about it. I'll get it later, but now that I'm seeing it right now, I want to pick that out. And then we get a little more coming in from the outside. I'm letting this be a little more out of focus because it's not in the main area. I got a little stuck on paint there. It's not coming, or eraser. It just doesn't want to come off. I'm just going to pick it off lightly. Alright. I need this pink. I need to put in this pink. That way I can rightly pick and choose. Okay. And under here, this is very fleshy, so there's not under here, there's not that scaly look. Hard edges. Okay. I'm just going into some of these little underside highlights, reflective ones. That way I can eliminate some of that. Oh, in here. Oh, good. I'm just trying to think whether I want to add this pink now. Yeah, I might as well. Let's add this, it's kind of a fuchsia pink. So, I'm going to clean out this color that I got right now. I'm pretty much done with that one for that color green. The next step is to go real dark to bring out that definition. You gotta be careful. I got it on the side of my cup. I don't want it to drip down on my painting while I'm painting. Now this time I want to make sure I flush out the inside of that brush. It's a real creamy pink tone, and it's more This is what I'm wanting. It's more of a magenta almost. We're going to go 4 water. And I want it really pastel. I don't want it strong. So 1, 2, 3, 4 transparent. So 4 water, 4 transparent base. And I'm going to go just 1 drop of magenta. I may even go more transparent base. Because magenta, red, very strong color. You know what? Let's go. Well, let's see how this looks on our board, and then I'll decide from there. Boy, oh boy. Let's go. Want a little more red than that pink. Let's go 3 more. I don't know. So it's too much comparatively. Yeah, it's more red in there. So I just added 3 more, and I'm gonna add 1 red. So that was 1 red and 1 magenta. I really don't want to add white to this. Wow, that red just overpowered. Red is so freaking overpowering, it's unreal. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do that technique that I told you. I'm going to spray this right through. Now I'm going to just put transparent base in there. Not going to mix it. Okay. That should be good. And I might do the same thing. Now all this is I'm spraying transparent base on this right now. And because I left the sprayed through the red and the magenta and then washed it out, I'm getting a real pastel color here. And it's not overpowering at all on this. Okay. It's not coloring over it and taking away. That really worked beautifully for this picture. Let's add a little more in here. We can go underneath on these cheeky areas that are more flesh and reflected area on this lip. that worked awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Jesus, for directing my hand to realize to do that just then. To use that technique. Props goes to Drew Blair for that method. Okay, now I'm going to go back in and re-highlight some of that. Wait a second. Let me see a spot I want to add a little more. This has got to be a lot stronger. Now I got to add some blue into this to bring out the shadowies. This is a lot of mixing and blending of colors on this picture of the bass. No, princess, you're not going right back out. You're just out. Unless she's got to go, really got to go potty. So maybe I should let the girl go out. Oh, she just went in there in the room. She's just sniffing the floor. She's just looking for food. Mm-hmm. I probably will do the same exact thing with the blue too, because let's take that. Mr. Bass. My name is Mr. Bass. Alright, let's go into this cheek area. Let's see, that's this. See, okay. And I need I need the tops of these scales re-highlighted now. Okay, in here I haven't worked any scales. So I'm going to utilize all that color and take a break here. Alright, at the moment I am just bringing in some highlights. I had an interruption here, but I had to keep working on this. And all I've done is I've gone into some of these highlights down here on the... I am so sorry. Oh my word. I did not realize that I wasn't recording. See, interruptions. So, unfortunately, you didn't get to watch all that. And what I was doing was I was adding in markings and just deepening the scales. I wasn't adding more detail. I was just darkening up these lines that we put in before. I also did a mist of the blue. I don't know if that got recorded. On top of where I did the violet. Not violet, but magenta and red. But I just put in all that and I didn't realize it didn't record. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Darn camera, I did not realize I still had it off. Yeah, I think he's pretty much done. The only other thing I might do is just add a little of the golden ochre around the bottoms. Let's maybe open up a few highlights. I want these fins. I've got a mixture of custom mixture of sepia smoke, green, a little Payne's gray in here, and it's diluted quite a bit. It's more to a blue side because of the sepia smoke. I know this fin is highlighted in my reference, but I want it to be able to stand out and stand on its own against the background. So I'm just going to add a little shadowy, same on this little edge, because I'm going to end up taking out that line. I gotta put in this, just deepen these markings over here on the lateral line and get this. Okay, that's more of what I wanted to do in there. Tell you, get sidetracked. That's why I don't like when people are at home when I'm painting, because I shut it off so I don't have talking in the background. And what do I end up doing just then? I forgot to hit the record button. So, my apologies, you guys. I'm really sorry. I did not mean to do that to you. I know you tune in to watch and to learn, and unfortunately those things happen. Okay, we got a little more of this lateral lines moving up on the face here and up on these cheek areas. That's just cheeky. Okay. Okie dokie, and then maybe just a couple more defined marks down here. And it sounds like I'm going to be stopping the video again in a second. Yep. Okay. Alright, we are back. I just took the time to change a color while I was waiting. I really do apologize for missing a whole bunch of information there for you. Was not intended. But right now I'm just going to add a little bit of yellows into this. I'm not using yellow, I'm using golden ochre, and I'm just going to mist over the top. Okay. Make sure I got my color coming through, yes. All right. And it's mainly this down in here on the belly. We got some of this color coming into these fins. We got a little more, especially this one. A lot in this one. And a little bit up in here. A little bit there. Yeah, a little bit here. I'm just misting certain areas. Now his eye is definitely more of a golden. They've got like a goldish red, brown eye. And just put a little color into here. Maybe a little down into the mouth, shining through. Okay. And then up on the back, we're gonna put some, a little back into there. Just to get that more vibrant looking. Maybe we'll do just little bits into these scales down here. Not too much. Same into here, a little bit. Alright. Now under here, I don't want these lines coming through. Even on the bottom of the chin, I don't want this orange line. So we'll just take that right off. I know it sounds like I'm really working it. Okay. Now there is a highlight on the top of this eye. It's right there. Again, right over there. And I think Mr. Bass is going to be done as far as I'm going to take it. Let me see. I'm really liking how it came out. I was skeptical at first of how it was going to play out. Let's see. I think this side needs to be a little bit brighter in front of this fin. Okay. And this area, I think it's got to come up in a little. Not to get rid of it, just to brighten it up a little. And I think we got another little spot here that needs opened up. And That's a little too dark right there. That little spot. Alright, I'm going to back up on my tape and see what I missed. So, booyah. Oop, what am I doing? The bass wasn't even centered. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better. And I'm going to change this to autofocus so that when I zoom in, it will focus. Okay. But that's what we've been working on. Mr. Largemouth Bass. Back up a little bit on that. Alright, a lot of erasing. No fur, obviously. It's all scales. So it's just reflections and highlights is what you're working on. And then layers of greens, browns, and yellows. It's got a little bit of magenta in there and some blues. The magenta and blues are in the flesh of the gill plates, covers, and the mouth, inside the mouth. So, and then I just added, like I said, the yellow ochre down into here as a reflective color. But I think Mr. Bass is done. There's not too much more I can do to him to make him more realistic. Okay, and then next will be our background. And like I said, it's just going to be a grayed out silhouette type background on both sides of the deer just to tie the whole picture together. Now there is a reference that you probably don't realize right now, but this whole picture is in the shape of a cross. What you have is you got your center figure, the center stay of the cross, and then you're going to have the stapy, the cross beam on the cross. He's a Christian man, just like myself. So I thought that would be an interesting design factor to put into this piece. And plus it emphasizes what he likes to do, and that way I can be a blessing to someone else. Okay, let me take a look and I'll get the references, and then we'll work on that background maybe tomorrow. Alright, I thought I would change the picture format here for the moment, just so you guys could get a better look at what's been done so far. Alright, on this, let me try closing that shade because it's throwing a lot of shadow on it. You know, my cheek still hurts from there. That bee stung me. But that's the painting so far. Okay. So you can get a look-see at it. I'm going to go from top of the antlers down through the deer. It's actually lighter here than in the picture. It's not as dark. The bass is a little more accurate. The way that the browns in that reflect on the camera. But that's the whole piece so far, and like I said, next we will be working on the misty background of the painting, and it'll be all complete. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Thank you for bearing with me. Again, I apologize for missing out on painting the darker tones into the bass to bring out the definition in it. but at least you got a good gist of how I was working anyways. So you saved a lot of time. There you go. I gave you a break. Oh, God bless y'all. Now I will get onto the background. Well, hello. Welcome to part 3. Spread. Papa's Painting Tips. Back again. And today we are doing the final part of this painting. Someone suggested surf and turf for the theme or the name, and I don't think I'm going to use that, but I thought that was pretty funny. I liked it. Today I just noticed I drew my line into the fur. Oops. Today is, for me, hardest part. You're going to say, well, why is that? It's the hardest part because I never know what to do with the background. You work so hard to put in a drawing and painting together on the subject matter. You just never put a lot of thought into the background. Alright, the background ties the painting together. So what I was just doing is I drew some lines here, and by mistake I overlapped them into the deer. I'm just taking out those orange lines real lightly. So what I've decided is I'm going to do a silhouette on both sides of the deer with clouds connecting the two different silhouettes. I've got a fisherman over here in a kayak, being as bass fishing, and the gentleman I'm doing this for loves kayak fishing. I'm also doing a hunter because he loves hunting, hence the buck and the bass. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm not going to make this a real strong black and white silhouette. I don't want to do that because then it's going to take away from the deer. So what I'm planning on doing, and I pray this works out, I want to do that technique I talked about while I was doing the bass in this, what do you call it? Oh shoot. Okay, in the magenta and blue area in the skin here, where I put the paint in the brush, spray all that paint out, and then just put, what do you call it, transparent base in it. And it picks it up and makes it real pastel. My next question then becomes, what color? Do I want to go gray, or do I want to go a brown, almost like a sepia? And I'm wanting to say, I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to run the two colors off the bat. So I'm going to put, let's try the sepia smoke. Let's try that. It's kind of a gray purple. I'm going to put that in the brush and then spray it through it. Not a lot. 3-4 drops, doesn't matter. Now I'm going to take that and spray it all out. Okay. You can tell it just came out of there. Now I'm going to add my transparent base. Probably about 4 drops as well. 3 drops. I don't think I need a lot of it. Let's go 4. Because I'm just going to take and mist this color onto it. So, then also I think I'm going to fog the edges, the corners all the way around, kind of make a photographic type play. Alright. Alright, see, that makes that real soft pastel to make that. I think that'll work. I think this color, the sepia, will work. So let's start filling him in. Then I'm also going to take out the lines after I get them in. Now, being it's a silhouette, you don't have to have the hard edges. See, I don't want to do it real harsh. I just want the hint. The straight line on this paddle is going to be a killer. I'm also going to do clouds that tie one side to the other. Alright. Now the reflection of this man back into the water. I'm just putting some water lines in. Carry them down into here. And also fog in his silhouette reflection. Now let's make him a little darker. Alright, and we'll put in the clouds. I think I'm out of paint already. Now, like I said, I just want a hint of it in there. I don't, where did I put that pencil? Should have pulled these out before. I don't know whether I'm going to need the hard eraser or not. I don't think so. Now I'm going to take out these orange lines. So that's going to determine whether I go got my Tombow eraser. I'm going to try this. What I noticed is I got a little overspray, so I'll probably go back in and kind of fix that up. Yeah, I'm going to have to because it's changing the appearance and I want it cloudy. I just got the, I'll go back through here. Redo these edges. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. I could even go a little bit darker, but not a lot. Yeah, this will work. This will work. And the sepia is fine. I could have gone brown, I could have gone sepia. Now these water lines, I could maybe define a little. I'm catching that right in front of the boat to give a little separation. And that actually works pretty good. Because now this becomes the highlight of the ripples of the water. For this image. And we can work on this a little bit. I just wish my hand, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit darker with this image. Not a lot. And then I've got a hunter on the other side to do. I just didn't want to go too heavy too fast and find out, hey, I don't really like this. I want to erase it right out, which I could have done. Let me get this. All right. I want it very loose. Okay. Yeah. Now on these cloud edges, I'm gonna make them just a little bit more poofy. So I'm doing a circular motion. To take out those. It's just a hint of the cloud. The bottom I'm going to keep a little harder. The top just a little more poofy looking. The lines were basically just to get my image down and get my thought process together. I didn't even need the clouds in lines in there. Okay. Yeah, I think this will really kind of work really nice. I could go stronger though, which I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run some more paint through there again and get it even better. A little stronger. So let's do that again. This time I'm gonna put more paint. Now you're probably thinking, why don't I just run the paint through and just make it real transparent? Could do that. I could. But I want that soft pastel look. So Now I'm going to come back into this silhouette. Maybe add a little more detail into it. And take where those eraser marks were and put them back in. And just make him a lot darker. Well, not a lot. Just darker. Let's do his arms. This is just building up this layer. I got him in there. Now I can strengthen up his reflection in the water. Now let's just hit some of these water spots. And also behind him, let's make a water line because he's not just floating on the edge. Yeah, that's a little better. Make a little cloud pattern in the water. Okay. Carry this a little bit more down into this. That way it ties in. Okay. And then okay, I think that works really well. I mean, real soft edges, silhouette. It's not taken away from the main drawing. I think that works. Now let's do in our, I think I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna erase down these orange lines in this one just till they're almost gone. Then I'm going to paint in rather than have to do the same thing over here that I just did. Just using my soft pencil eraser. I could even use, if I had a real pointy chalk pencil, colored chalk to lay that out. I'm just about where I want it to put in this guy. Okay. I think I oversaturated him. So I gotta erase some of that down. Oop. Let's let that dry. Let's not do that yet. Alright. Put the land in. The grass. And then these clouds. You know, I am going to mix one drop. This is not where I'm going or what I wanted. It's a little too weak. Let's see how this happens. This time I'm trying just some transparent base. It might be too strong. I may just blow it out and start again. It's almost there. I think I can use it. It's right about the same. Still, you know. Okay. And let's put the clouds in, same as before. I want to tie a cloud in. Same here. And then put these ones in. Alright. Want this like he's in the marsh. Let's do some water too. Let's fog in between here. Less of a separation right there. Alright, I'm going to take a look at my image. Yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. I think it works perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sepia and I'm going to put a lot more. And I think for this, I'm going to take most of this out. And I'm going to, like I said, fog in those edges. So I want it pretty opaque. Just going to be lightly misting. I don't need to reduce it. Okay. I got to take this off. I hope it doesn't throw that out of focus. Alright. And I'm just gonna mist these corners. Kind of give it a rounded effect. Just to tone down that white a little bit. And to draw your attention into the middle. What I should do is put a larger board. There we go. Gotta get it balanced in here. Carry that up along the side. I don't want them black. This also will tie in those silhouettes so they're not just floating in midair as well. Before I do that, I've got a little orange mark that I put down here. It's been there so long I gotta scrape that one off. It was just to help me line up things. It's either that or it's paint. I don't know what it is. There we go. It's off. I think it was a drip of paint. Truthfully. And I can go into those antlers and pick up throwing a lot of paint here. Bring this up a little to balance it out better. Bravo. It worked. That's what I was hoping. It brought it all back, all together, all tied in. Not just a flat white background that's distracting and overpowering. That's one of the things you gotta do. You gotta find that balance in your image that just takes it and blends it all together. And that, my friend, is a pretty much finished picture pretty much. I always say pretty much. Okay, and let's go in here, take some of these little grass line things. Make them a little more evident. Just darken him in a little bit. Now that I did the edges, I can go a little darker, I see on here. And just get them both balanced. This paddle needs a little more. Yeah, that was a mistake. Alright, I can touch that. That's not a big deal. All I gotta do is erase into it. What we'll do on here. There you go. I don't want to take too much away from that the main focus of this. So I gotta be careful. I got nice light puffy clouds. And then I'll lightly erase just to lessen some of these orange marks. Again. I should have trusted my instincts on these clouds and just not worried about drawing them in. I have enough. Really? These eraser marks are stuck. I just got to get them off. I don't want little dark specks in my drawing. Come on, you bugger. I don't want to put scratch marks in there. You wouldn't see me doing this on synthetic paper. No way. On this, it's okay. Alright, let's sign it. And then I'll go in and finish those antlers up. We will put my signature down here very my signature is horrible. I tell you, I cannot make a stylized F. I've tried all my life to make that a stylized F. In the notes. Giving it a little flair. That's all. And now I'm gonna just take back from it a little bit so it's not so bold. Down there. Okay. That's good. Now, what I wanted to do up on these antlers, because on here, I don't know if you recall me saying, but they were highlighted on one side, but because of the white board, you couldn't see it. Let's try it with this. But now that I put that background color, I can put those highlights on it. Let's try the Tombow. Maybe. I think the Tombow will work better here. Yeah. Okay. Now that highlight kicks them right out. Woo-wee. Something I planned worked. Alright, let's get this locked down before I knock my painting and destroy it. Okay. In here there was another highlight. There. And I could scratch it in like I was doing with okay. I just kicked it up a notch. Bam! Like Emerald used to say, bam! Let's kick it up a notch. I'm just gonna put some highlights on top of these waves. Like such. Boy, they want to stick, don't they? Little stickers. Alright, let's do the same thing over here. Make it like he's hunting duck. That way we've got continuity between the two sides. Nice word, huh? Continuity. I liked it too. Alright. I like it. It's done. No more touching it. Praise you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord, for your help in doing this painting today. And the past couple days, truthfully. Oh, I do see something I gotta fix here. I got the same thing on this little Mr. Bass. Take out some of these lines. Alright. And strengthen a highlight or two. Same up here. Okay. And then his tail. I knew I had to take him off of his tail a little bit. And what works, in a way, on that, I'm just pulling in some of these highlights off the edge. What works in a way is doing that, it brings the separation from the background I just put in, almost as an outline for him. The highlighted edge of sunlight bursting from behind him. One of the things my teachers taught me in, well, my brief stint at college was you don't want to see your guidelines in your finished painting or your finished drawing. Okay. By George, I think we've done it. Ooh la la. Or in fishing terms, booyah. This paint gets a little gummy. I just gotta take off those eraser marks. Dang, man. Not eraser marks, but eraser pieces. I gotta go back in and touch that up. They're getting stuck on them. That's a little thing. I'm not sure how to get around that. I think it's because of the paint being not sure. All because I scratched them too much. Scratch that edge. And I want soft edges on them anyways because I don't want it a hard silhouette. So you gotta figure out how you can do that to avoid that eraser mark or the eraser pieces. I'm just trying to take down that little bit of it leaves eraser pieces. Maybe if you use the hard eraser it'd be easier, but the hard eraser tends to scratch. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. It's good enough. It works for me. I am very happy with this painting. I'm going to switch over to autofocus and go around the front. Turn off that so I can show you guys from the front the finished painting. And there you have it. It worked. Beautiful. Thank you, Jesus. Praise you. I hope you've enjoyed this painting. Bucking the Bass, or Surf and Turf, as my friend called it. That still it makes me laugh, Surf and Turf. But he's not beef, so it would be venison. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this painting, and I just pray that you have been blessed and have learned from this piece of work, and that I've done my job. And just God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following me and subscribing to my channel. If you'd like to make any donations in the future, you can on my PayPal account for fredaw61 at rochester.rr.com. It's not necessary. I covet more your prayers than your cash, but go with what the Lord leads. And I ask that you have a blessed day. I pray that your paths be straight and God guides you in your commitment to serving Him. Thank you all. God bless. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you've enjoyed.